Hey everybody, this is TCG Productions back for, well, first video that I've recorded in probably right around 3 months, because I know the last video that I recorded, at least the last major notable video that I remember recording was, it was late 2021, and I believe it had to do, I believe that was the SCSI upgrade for the 1993 Gateway 2000 8046 system. So, it just goes to show you it's been a while. But anyways, we are here at my main workstation system, and today I'm going to be showing you how to rename a user and do it completely and properly and everything like that. Basically there's here's a general concept. First, we're going to have to unlock the root account, because to do this properly we need to drop down to single user mode, and to enter single user mode we need to have the root account not only unlocked but also with a password set on it, because having a passwordless root account is a fast track to major disaster when it comes to any computing system. It's like having a local administrator account on Windows with no password. You just don't do that, okay? Moving along. Anyways, once we drop to single user mode, we're going to change the username, change the group name, rename the home and media folders, and then we'll edit the user once again to use the newly renamed home folder, and then we'll create a couple of symbolic links that points that it has the name of it has our old username, but it points to our new username, so that way everything will continue to work as expected. Now, when it comes to stuff like that, you're going to have to keep those in place until you either create a new user and migrate everything over, or clean reinstall the operating system software. Anyways, so first thing we'll need to do is, and we have the lovely IBM Model M keyboard here, we'll need to open up a terminal, and I should probably go ahead and change the font size to be much larger. How about 18? There we go. We should be able to read that. So here we are at TCG Productions main workstation 1, which is, of course, my main workstation system. Why else would I name it workstation? But anyways, now that we've got our terminal open, we'll need to, we can either prefix it with sudo, or we can just get an interactive sudo session by just doing sudo-i. Then we'll need to type our password. Alright, now that we've typed our password, we have root on the system. Now, just because we can get root access by doing sudo-i does not mean that the actual root account is locked. So, we are going to start by issuing PASSWD, short for password, and then we'll specify the root account. And then now we have officially set a fresh new password for the root account, which if you this is Debian testing, just that way you know, by the way. And Debian testing will ask you, do you want to allow root login? Answer no at that prompt, okay? Because you never want the root account to be unlocked, except for the few times in which you're actually going to need to utilize the root account. In this case, we need to utilize the root account, so that way we can use single user mode. So now that we've got if you choose to not allow root login, the root account is locked and no password is set. Now, if you try usermod -U and then specify the root account, it will fail with an error message stating that you should never have a passwordless root account, and it will refuse to unlock the root account. You have to set a password for this next command to succeed, and that command is and that command is user mod dash capital U root. Now the capital U is for unlock, because if we do user mod dash help and then grep for unlock dash capital U, otherwise known as double dash unlock the user account. So we have officially unlocked the root account and set a password. So now I can do SU and then followed by a dash, and then if I specify the root password, we now actually have a live root session on the system. You cannot get root by using SU space dash if the root account is locked. You will just simply get an authentication failure message. So now we need to drop to single user mode. Now you would think that you'd just be able to drop to single user mode by doing sudo init 1. Now I'm going to warn you, the way that the fans are set up on my main workstation system, the CPU fans are a pair of Noctua IPPC 3000s, and they get incredibly loud whenever fan control shuts down and releases control of the fan speed back to the system BIOS. Because in the system BIOS I have the fans cranked all the way up to 100%. So if I do sudo init 1 and then specify my user account password, you can probably hear the situation with the fans. They're rather loud. So I'm going to give the root password, and now we are in single user emergency mode, or well, rescue mode. Now the next command that we have to run, which is a user mod command, it will fail if you do not reboot the system. Why? Because there are still processes and files open under our old username. As we can see here in HTOP, the rightmost column still has the Computer Geek processes running. Now you could just do a kill all and then specify that you want to kill all processes under the target username. However, you definitely run the risk of having many unclean process shutdowns. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to hit Control D, and that actually goes ahead and brings us back up into multi-user mode. And then I just discovered I need to figure out the exposure situation. But what we'll do is we'll come up here to the little power icon in the top right, and we'll go ahead and take the restart option. Now it wants us to confirm that we're going to restart. Yes, we do. So I'm going to click restart, and the system will immediately, if everything is working properly, restart. And there it goes. Now most of the displays are going to blank out. You may or may not be able to see some light shining. Well, there's my first monitor right over here. You can see lit up. Currently got my LSI Logic LSI 22320 SLE SCSI controller initializing right now. And then of course my CRT monitor, my fourth monitor on the far right, is not displaying anything. It just says monitor self-tester monitor is working correctly. I'm going to put in my password for the BIOS, and as soon as you end up reaching the post portion of your system's initialization, you should hold one of the shift keys. This will prompt the grub menu to pop up if the timeout is set to 0, at which point I need to pan the camera over that way. Now, I know this is going to really jack up the focus. Let me see, what are we at? That's probably going the wrong way. As you can barely see there, we have an option called WGNU Linux. That's what the system starts up by default with. We need to go down and take the second option, Advanced Options for WGNU Linux. We're going to be kicked into a black and white menu, and we need to choose the first option that says Recovery Mode. Now at this point we're going to come up with verbose mode enabled on the system, on the kernel, and now I need to unlock a couple of encryption containers so that the system will boot. And as we can see, there is plenty of stuff scrolling by on the screen because, again, the kernel is running in verbose mode. And in verbose mode, all the information that the kernel has to say that would otherwise ordinarily be hidden away in the kernel logs accessible via dmesg, D-M-E-S-G, the dmesg command, will be exposed on the screen as the kernel prints it out. And get our exposure fixed up here. Okay, now the system has come up in rescue mode, also known as single user mode. So I need to input my root password. Whatever root password you have set will get you into here. And now we are well and truly in single user mode with the fan screaming away. And if we have a look at HTOP here, we have a downright slender 12 tasks running. We've got PID, we've got process ID 1, which is of course our Linux kernel. If you kill that, the system will kernel panic. We've got a few systemd processes running. Yes, I use systemd as an init system. No, I don't care. And we've also got bash, which is actually forming our login shell, and htop, which is, well, this utility. So I'm going to quit out of that. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to run usermod -l. I believe it's -l. Let me check. Yes, usermod -l. And at this point we need to specify the new username that we're going to use for the user account. In which case it's going to be Trifton. And then we need to specify our old username. In which case it's the Computer Geek. So, now if we had not rebooted the system prior to entering single user mode, this would have failed with an error message stating that various files or processes were running under the old username. So if we look, so now we can use the ID command and look at and specify our new username. And we can still see, that our user ID is still 1000, and that is mapped to our new username. So that means we've successfully changed the username. However, we can see that our GID and our group ID is still pointing to the Computer Geek, and we're still a member of a group pointing to our old username. Now we need to use group mod, and then we will use, let's see, -n. It tells it that we're going to rename the group, and so we're going to specify our new username again, and then our old one yet again. And this will rename our group to be our new username. Now we can see that our user ID, our group ID, and one of the groups and our own user group that we are a part of are all our new username, Trifton in this case. So that's the actual renaming part taken care of, at least in terms of editing the user and whatnot. Now we need to make a venture into our home directory. As we can see, we've got a few home folders on here. One of those is just a standard ext for lost and found directory. And you might be asking, why is there a lost and found directory in the home folder? Well, that's because I have the home folder mounted to I have the home folder on a 2 terabyte SSD. So we're actually sitting at the very root of that 2 terabyte SSD, hence the lost and found folder. We can see here we have our folder, the Computer Geek, with an owner and group of Trifton. So, what we're going to do here is we are just going to move this folder to the new name. So, in which case it is move the Computer Geek, don't let it put the slash on there, Trifton. Now, we can see our home folder has been renamed. Now, we need to have a look at the media folder. And we have we can already see we've got a symlink, CD-ROM linked to CD-ROM 0. I believe that's compatibility symlink. And then, of course, we have the Computer Geek. Now, if we look in the Computer Geek folder, we can see that, well, I have a Steam Games drive mounted here, and the purpose is quite obvious. My Steam Games library is mounted here. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to go ahead and dismount this drive. So we'll use umount media, the Computer Geek, Steam, Games. And as you can see, we have the kernel message, ext4fs, unmounting file system. Now, if we have a look in here again, it's still there. Except you can see that the details are radically different. You can see that the folder ownership has changed from our new username, Trifton, to root. That's because whenever my Steam Games partition was mounted, this was actually pointing to the partition. Now the Steam Games folder is just pointing, it's just another folder on the same file system, all owned by root. So now that we've dismounted all of our disks that are mounting into our media folder, we can safely rename this folder, and we do the same thing that we did for the home folder. Move the Computer Geek Trifton. So, there we go. Now, we still have two major things left to do. We need to use a usermod command yet again and tell it that our user's home folder is actually home Trifton instead of home Computer Geek. Now, you'll substitute your old and new usernames in wherever necessary to make this work. So, if we try to come up into multi-user mode, we're obviously not going, well, we're going to get to a login screen, but if we actually try to log in, we're going to get absolutely nowhere fast, because the folder that it's looking for, the Computer Geek, no longer exists. Its name has changed. So, you see, user home. We'll use the usermod-d command to update our home directory. And it is quite simple. We just tell it where the new folder is, and we actually need to specify the username we want to make that change to, in this case Trifton. So as you can see, my previous attempt failed because I forgot to specify the username. Now you think we might be done here. We've updated the username, we've updated the group, we've renamed the home and media folders, and then we've gone ahead and changed the home folder. Well, we're not quite there yet. I'm actually going to go ahead and demonstrate what happens. I'm actually going to go ahead and demonstrate what happens if I'm actually going to go ahead and demonstrate what happens if you attempt to sign in now. I need to change the exposure. So I'll go ahead and attempt to sign in here. And okay, we are going to need to blur that. But as you can see, we've got several things that are starting up here. We've got Firefox for some reason. We've got Notes. I don't know what Firefox is doing. Oh, look, we have Steam starting up. So we are technically logged in. However, we are far from usable. And in fact, stop that Steam, okay? That disk isn't actually mounted as of yet, I don't believe. Yeah, we definitely have things up and running here, but are very much not usable. In fact, if I try to call up, well, I can call up the calculator, and just here it is. But if I try to do something such as call up the XFCE for Whisker menu, we get this pretty gnarly looking error message. The name org.xfce.panel was not provided by any .service files, and I don't know what Firefox is doing. Okay, Firefox is up and running for some reason. However, it is very much not happy with me. We have no extensions. So I am going to need to log out. And we have a terminal. Oh yeah, we're not looking too hot here. As we can see, we've got a message saying Home Computer Geek, and then yeah, we're not looking too hot here. We don't have a functioning desktop environment, and our terminal isn't looking too great. So I can't actually input any keyboard stuff. Alt F4 doesn't seem to be working. We might have to take the hard way out here. Okay, exit Steam. Quit that. Quit that. Okay, now we can type into our terminal. So we need to reboot. And we're going to do the same thing we did to get into emergency mode or rescue mode last time. There is a difference between emergency mode and rescue mode. You typically end up dumped in rescue mode if, say, a process, say a required file system failed to mount, or something critical happened. Something semi-critical happened, and your system was not able to start everything up that it needed to come up into a multi-user environment. And emergency mode is what you get dumped into if, for whatever reason, you're not actually able to properly mount the root file system. Okay, now we've got things coming up. Okay, now we're back up and running in rescue mode. So what we need to do next is we need to create a couple of symlinks So that way anything that's looking for our old username will actually be redirected to our new home folder. So we'll go into the home directory and we will use lm-s. We will specify what we want to link to, in which case it's the home folder, Trifton, and then we will specify what the name of this link should be. The Computer Geek. Now, as we can see, we have a link named The Computer Geek, and it's actually pointing to the Trifton folder. So if I do cd The Computer Geek, we actually do have our real home folder. Now we need to do the same thing over in the media folder. Now with the media folder, it's not as critical. Okay. What's mounted here? Steam games. Okay, that's right. Okay. So okay, now that I've got that squared away, we still have a folder here. We still have a folder left behind here called The Computer Geek. That's the actual folder. Now we've got some very interesting permissions going on with our automatically created Trifton folder. I don't know what's going on here. We have a plus at the end. I think that means that we have a sticky bit set on here. So I'm just going to try deleting that folder entirely. And I'll remove Trifton. There's a directory. Oh, that's right. I need to specify the recursive option. Okay, it's gone, which is good. So the next thing we'll do is we'll do move the Computer Geek, Trifton, and then we'll create a symlink. So ln-s, Trifton, and then the Computer Geek. And there we go. Now we can officially control D out of rescue mode and land at a functioning desktop and land at a login screen, and we will soon land at a perfectly functional desktop. Of course, we will need to sign in with our new username or else it'll fail the login. And as we can already see, we're quite on the way back to normal. We actually have Firefox, a little login script I've got going on there that takes care of a couple things for me. I mean, we've got Firefox working normally here. We've got all of our extensions and everything like that. I don't know why this has come up. No, Steam, don't do that. You're not mounted. Or are you? Well, maybe you are mounted. I don't know. I don't know exactly where that mount point's referenced. Okay, it looks like that did get mounted appropriately. Okay. So I'm just going to apply display profile. That works. Now we need to go ahead and relock our user account. Relock the root account and actually delete the password. So what we'll do is we'll do sudo -i, not equals I. And that will give us an interactive session. So we'll do user mod. I think it's -d. Yep. Nope. No, it's password wd-d root, and if we have a look, okay, I don't know what was going on there. Okay. There we go. -D, delete. Delete the password from the name account. And what that does is it leaves us with a fully passwordless account. So, after we delete the password from the root account, we need to lock it again. And that is usermod-L root. Now, if we try to get an interactive root session with su-, I'll try the last known password that worked on that account. We just get an authentication failure message. If we just enter through the password prompt, we also get an authentication failure message. And if we try to unlock the root account, we get the error message that I was talking about before we started this whole process. Usermod. Unlocking the user's password would result in a passwordless account. You should set a password with usermod-P to unlock this user's password. So, yeah, it's locked. Nobody's getting in there. Nobody's getting root unless they're in the sudoers list. And by that I mean they're a part of the sudo group on the system. But yeah, now that we're back up and running, we're working totally normally here. We can basically do everything that we could do before we renamed the user account. So, anyways, this is T-Seat and G Productions here. Peace out, guys. Peace out, and see you in the next one.